Welcome back to the patch for today's video, which is a product review of my Premier polytunnel. So we're going to take a look at what's going on and speak about all the things that I like about this polytunnel. On the outside of the tunnel, we've got this secured in with anchor plates. So along all of these poles, I dug a square hole, and then you secure a plate in the ground, which then bolts to the frame, and then it keeps it locked in. And we had anchor plates going along each hoop along the polytunnel. And then the actual plastic itself is fastened down to these boards. A lot of people traditionally bury the polytunnel bury the plastic underground, but here what we've done is we've secured it down with wood. And actually this is going to be much better and protect it from the wind. This is a much more sturdy way of securing your polytunnels to the ground. So we're going to start off with the doors first. We've got some nice big double doors which allows for easy access inside the polytunnel, and we've got the vented screens on the top, which really does help to get some fresh air through the tunnel when the doors are closed. Particularly helpful in summertime when you're not here early in the morning, but you want to keep the doors closed because there's lots of pesky birds that get in there and start digging around at the base of the plants looking for worms and other sorts of forage. And then we've got this little catch system, simply pops open, and inside you can see it's a little bit like a rainforest in here at the moment. There's a lot going on. Now, the build of the polytunnel, I'd say, was fairly easy. I managed to do the majority of it on my own. I did have some help from my friend Cam over at 5 Rod Farm to help put the actual plastic cover on. But apart from that, I built it all by myself, which I would say was a semi-challenge, but it's definitely doable. Now, the one thing I would say is, if you can see inside here, I haven't managed to get the plastic very tight, especially on this corner, and it's quite loose, so that's obviously not going to help with the longevity of the polytunnel. So that was one thing I would say that I found a little bit tricky, was getting it super tight. And I think as a result of the plastic being loose, you have these tape protectors which are put on the bars to help protect the plastic, and they're all coming loose. All of them are coming loose. Perhaps this is because of the loose plastic giving it some movement, or it's just not a very strong adhesive on those plastics. And those are kind of my only two issues I've had with the whole polytunnel. Yeah, keeping the plastic tight and these protective strips. But let's have a little look inside the polytunnel so you can get a feel for how much you can grow in a polytunnel this size. It's 12 foot wide by 20 foot long. And realistically, you can grow a lot of food in that quite small space. So the polytunnel is set up, we've got all of tomatoes growing along the back wall, growing up strings. And then along the front, I've interplanted with okra and aubergines. Then I've got a small pathway running up the middle. The pathway is just no dig beds. I haven't put any wood chip. I just treated the beds exactly the same. I did have wood chip paths in here last year, but I removed them all and then mulched it with manure. And that's just going to be able to create more freedom within the tunnel, so I can plant in any position that I want, and I'm not restricted by the wood chips, which the birds can also like kind of flick all over the beds, and it kind of makes it a little bit untidy. So next to the polytunnel, next to the path in the polytunnel, we have all of these chilies and peppers which are growing in pots, and they're growing really well. They're looking absolutely massive. This one actually hasn't got any fruits, but a lot of them are absolutely teeming with peppers and chilies. Like that one is the Macedonian grilling pepper. So this is perfectly suited for grilling on the barbecue. Really nice pepper, that one. And the reason I'm growing them in pots is because it just gives me a little bit more freedom. I'm not putting all of those roots in the ground, and they're growing really well in the pots. Then I can get them out, maneuver them, so I can get in to do maintenance, and it's just a great way to utilize all of the space in the tunnel. When we scooch round to the other path, we have a whole row of cucumbers growing along the middle. And then alongside those, we have some aubergines, which have probably been planted a little bit too close because they're not doing too great, but the cucumbers are doing much better. And then along this side, we have a whole row of melons. There's 20 different varieties of melons along that side. And behind them, sprawling along the floor, is watermelons. So these guys are creating a whole canopy down here below on the soil level. And the melons, the regular melons, are growing up along strings. And then finally, we've got a row of marigolds being planted in here. That's just going to produce lots of flowers to attract all sorts of beneficial insects, and they release pheromones underground, which is going to deter the cutworm. So you can see in a pretty small polytunnel, it's actually super abundant. And as I say, it's like a rainforest, and you're producing really, really tasty food. Here in the UK climate, when we haven't had a very good summer, you know, we've had constant rain, and even in a poor summer, you're able to produce really, really good crops by using a piece of equipment like a polytunnel. So all in all, I would definitely recommend the Premier Polytunnel. They're a really high quality build. The poles are very, very strong, sturdy. You know, it's not going to go anywhere. We're on a really exposed site here on the south coast, and we get battered by all sorts of storms, and it's stood strong now for about 18 months. And yeah, it's going to be able to be here to provide me with lots of shelter for the coming years to grow lots of tasty food. But yeah, no, that's it. I hope you guys have found this useful. If you're thinking of buying one of these polytunnels, I would recommend it. So you got my seal of approval. Take it easy, guys. Peace out.